And the purpose of the video we're shooting today is to give you a platform to let a much bigger number of people in positions of authority know what you have to say. Does this all make sense? Yeah. Okay, great. Let's get started.
Okay, so full name is Maimun Adam Muhammad Abukar, and I live in neighbourhood.
So my name is Grace. I come from the Jane and Finch surrounding Black Creek community.
So my name is Munira, first name. Last name is Abukar.
I am Ibarra Abukar, and I'm from the Scarlet Woodcourt area, which is, I guess, kind of the West End.
So my name is Natalie Simon, and I'm from the Jane and Finch community.
My name is Husnain Mansour. I'm from Whitby, Ontario.
My name is Unique, and I come from the St. Jamestown area.
My first name is Nima, and I grew up in Scarborough.
My name is Wendy D'Souza, and I reside on the Jane and Woolner community.
My name is Sidra, and I'm from Thorncliffe Park.
Living in my community is fun and an amazing experience because of the people who I live with. If anyone needs help, they find a way to, help you out.
What I really love about the community is the vast, diversity in terms of the richness of the cultural backgrounds.
People who live in the area are your second parents, if your mom or dad's not there.
Not a lot goes on, honestly. It's mostly just wildlife.
A lot of people have brought new ideas, different parts of their traditions that have adapted to new environments, like settling in a new area like Toronto or Scarborough.
There's a community center nearby. There's a lot of churches and mosques where people hang out, where people go there daily. So it is a very collective and collaborative community from my perspective.
We have a neighborhood watch program. There's a lot of things that the community is involved in protecting the safety of one another, and I feel like that's an excellent thing to have in a community, is just that level and that mindset of safety.
Well, I think you have some of the most honest and genuine people that live in that community, but the infrastructure needs to be changed. It's unfair that people who can't make the best ends meet have to live in the worst situations. And it's not a matter of choice.
What I dislike about living in my community is a lot of the time we are exposed to a lot of violence, where it's just this past month, I guess, someone was shot and killed in my community. The only time we ever see police is if something to that extent occurs, or if shooting occurs or something like that occurs.
For example, in my building, we got security guards. My building, it's known for drug people who come in and cause havoc and whatever. Seeing the security guards there sort of makes me feel a bit safe, but it's the way they act towards residents. Not saying all of them.
I enjoy living where I live because it gives me a humble sense of what humanity is. You have all that and you experience all that, and it gives you a better sense of I do this because of this.
For the most part, for me, living in the community it's normal. It's just normal.
Living in Scarborough has changed quite a lot about who I am and who I want to be.
I would say, because I was born and raised in that community, a lot of the values and ideals of being a caring person. If someone needs your help, you can be there to help them.
I want to get out of that community. Not that it's a bad community per se, but it's just had me reflect on my life and see how much I actually want to make more out of myself. I want to break that cycle of poverty and make something for myself and my family.
So this was basically building the foundation that's set now that has propelled me to where I'm going to be for the next few years in terms of social work, which is the direction that I want to get into. So I guess coming from those lived experiences, it's kind of focused me in terms of how I want to work with clients that have come from similar lived experiences.
Oh, it's low incomes, a lot of poor families living there. The youth will be resorting to gun violence and a lot of gang-affiliated activities. So you see a lot of those stereotypes. Unfortunately, there are people who follow the stereotype of being affiliated with gang life, but it shouldn't be defining the neighborhood as a whole, because there are a lot of good qualities with the neighborhood that should be seen as well.
People from Jane Finch don't go to university or something, right? they don't go to grad school or they don't, you know, hold certain professional identities or titles or things like that. But of course, being there, being a member of the community, I know that that is not the case.
All these people here, all these Bleecker kids aren't going to go anywhere in life, that they're just going to be surrounded by drugs and everything. So
not everyone who lives in Scarborough is a gangbanger or a troublemaker.
When they see my postal code, they assume automatically that I'm someone who's a bit uneducated, I'm someone who doesn't understand the system or anything like that. And also it's my hijab as well, where it's like, because I am of a certain ethnic group and I'm a certain religion, then people automatically assume I wasn't born here or assume that I can't speak the language. So,
and people really thinking that you're not good enough or you're not able to get an education, but there's so many brilliant people in my community.
I have 8 siblings, 9 kids in the family total. And a lot of times people are saying they're a drain on the welfare system, they're a drain on our systems, and they need to go back to where they came from. And it's like, surprise, surprise, I actually have a brother who's in the Canadian military. Like, he's one of the first Somali Canadians to be in the forces. You would recognize that. I have a sister who's studying nursing and is applying to be in med school.
There are so many youth and young adults who do so much for the community. I would rather people made better assumptions or more positive. The justice system, at least in my community, I would say is more of a patrolling effort.
Community is not really seen as positive.
I feel like police only come to our communities when there's something wrong. So, you know, within the human psyche, you're always going to identify police with danger or police with bad.
The police in our neighborhood do profile. They do. They do play the race card with most people.
But I think it's just a looming presence. I don't really feel like there's much effort as far as communicating with people who live there, or just to make sure that people do feel safe rather than feel like they're being watched.
In places like Walmart and Tim Hortons and all that, police are there too, just patrolling, and they usually just go up to them and immediately ask them what they're doing there. They don't treat them as people, they treat them as if they're there to cause havoc.
The system, I talk mainly about police officers and frontline justice. Their job is to serve and protect you. And a lot of times we don't feel they're there for either or. They're not there to serve you. There's no service in your communities. There's no programs that happen in your community. There's no protection.
Well, I have gotten to meet with judges, justices of the peace, lawyers, just to have conversation through school. And that experience has changed a lot, like changed my opinion about the whole justice sector.
It bothers me, like the language is inaccessible. The system in itself is inaccessible, right? The locations are inaccessible. And so it's how do you make justice more accessible for our communities? How do you actually go into these communities that you're arresting people in, sit down and have a conversation? And it becomes so hard. Like I've had to sit in meetings with community members and the police. And it's so hard to be in meetings like that because it's such a wall of distrust and discontent and a wall of separation.
I think a lot of people don't know about the justice system.
Information that I attain about, the justice system itself is mostly from friends and social media.
For legal issues, I would, or concerns or questions, unfortunately I wouldn't go to a lawyer. Well, I would, but first I would go to my parents.
Most of it would be self-research, to be honest. I mean, social media, I think the point in my relationship with social media is I know it's very one-sided.
Like, I have good relationships with my teachers at school, and I've got a community outreach worker, so if I ever had a legal problem, I could go to them.
But I know that there are resources available that I could potentially go and talk to if I needed to. And they're not, I think that those resources are there, but it's not everyone knows about it. So I would have to go a long route to find, who I should talk to, who I shouldn't talk to.
In terms of, there's a lot of police presence. So I guess in terms of the neighborhood, so there's surveillance that goes on. I think there should be more of an open dialogue in terms of community members and or youth.
Kind of if you want to have a good relationship, both sides have to work together. Say there has to be more involvement from this side, the justice system. So you can have a lot of youth employment, that's one way to end youth violence, I guess.
It's, also police getting more involved in the community, like with the Youth and Policing Initiative. Like that's a job for youth employment during the summer. So if there are a lot more employment opportunities, especially during the summer where the most violence occurs, then that would be a good thing for my community.
Before, I think policy and procedure should be placed, come into our setting, our community setting, and have those open discussions and have that dialogue.
The inside looking out, it doesn't look the same as the outside looking in. The world is not black and white as much as the law hopes to keep it.
So the justice system in Canada, I'm pretty sure, has the witness thing going on. So if you've seen a crime, then you have to be at the court as a witness to whatever's going on. And so a lot of people in my neighborhood, that's what they fear. And when that happens, so if someone gets shot and dies, and if they've seen it that night, they wouldn't really want to come to the police and tell them because they're scared they have to go to court, they're scared their face will be seen, their identity will be known by the other family, and then that'll cause trouble for them. So I guess having that system really looked over, a lot of people, that they fear their lives, so I'd say that would be one thing to change the justice system.
We need to get police officers in our community when nothing bad is happening, just to check up or see what's going on.
Well, I would tell people who can make change, or make as much change as you can, because you're not only fighting for yourself, you're not only advocating for yourself, you're advocating for people who can't for themselves.
Just to recognize the individuality of the people that you're working with. So just knowing that, okay, because this person comes from this neighborhood or is from this town, it doesn't always mean that they are like everyone else in that town. Don't come up with like one-size-fits-all resolutions. Be open to different resolutions or different solutions to fix things.
At the end of the day, the police are there for a certain amount of hours per shift. We have to live there.